Okay, let me find my little script here. Hi, good evening. This is open meeting of the Town of Needham Conservation Commission for January 11th, 2024. I'm Dave Hare, Conservation Commission Chair. Before we get started, I just want to confirm that the members and staff are present and can hear me. So when I call your name, please respond. Sue?
Here.
Reed?
Here.
Fred?
Here.
And I believe Allison and Polina are out, and Deb is out as well. And Clay is here. Okay, this open meeting of the Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Healy's March 2003 extension of the open meeting law temporary provisions. All supporting materials have been provided to members of the commission and are available on the Conservation Commission website. Before we go to the first item on the agenda, let's cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each hearing on the agenda and introduce the applicant and/or their consultant to begin the project presentation. After conclusion of the applicant's presentation, I will call on each commission member to provide their comments or questions. Please hold until your name is called. After comments and questions from the commission members, I'll solicit questions or comments from the staff and then from the public. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you, and please state your name before speaking. And finally, each vote taken during this meeting will be conducted via roll call vote. Okay, so let's go to the first item on the agenda, which is the meeting minutes, which Clay had.
So we do have we received a set from Kristen, but it did not get circulated in time. So we'll
okay.
have that set out for the next meeting.
All right. How about, do we have any enforcement or violation updates?
There's only one update, and I've moved it to the other business for 1297 Central Avenue. So we don't have any new violations to touch on tonight.
Okay, great. All right, so let's move to the first item on the agenda. Hearing 131 Oxbow Road. I believe they have a DEP file, but it's not listed on the agenda. They made a presentation last meeting. It's only work in the buffer zone. The commission decided to, they were asking for a determination of applicability, but the commission decided to ask for a notice of intent. So they basically submitted a notice of intent, which is essentially the same information that was submitted before with some additional paperwork. My understanding is that there was no significant changes in the materials. Clay had noted that they had agreed to change the replacement species of some of the trees, which I think Clay had noted in the draft order of conditions. So is any, I guess, Dave.
Yep.
Marky Dant from I forget the name of your company, but do you have any further?
No, you're absolutely correct. We were for an RDA. Board's wishes were to file an NOI. We do have a file number 0917. It's on the website. Everything else remains the same. You're correct about the species of trees. We converted to a change to red maples and in River Birch. We are meeting your requirement of 2-to-1 ratio. Everything else remains exactly the same. Drainage is the same. No limits have changed. No work in the 50-foot. No issues with flood zones, riverfront.
So if I may, since this was renoticed with the notice of intent and reposted, I wonder, I think maybe we should just have a quick summary of the work, and if you want, Dave, I can pull up the
Sure.
plans.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think even just a brief overview, just in case there's any new abutters or anybody that came in since the filing
Sure.
of the notice of intent.
That sounds great. So we're raising our this is page 1. We're raising the existing dwelling, shed, and pool. The existing shed is 63 feet off the wetland, and our house is 83. And we're moving our house mostly out of the buffer zone to be 93 and 98 off the corners to the closest point of the wetland. We're moving the pool out. The pool is now outside the buffer zone. We have a little bit of a fire pit and a little bit of a patio right there that's just inside the 100-foot. The limit of work is the erosion control, which is the thick poly line, kind of running from south to southwest. We have a wetland that's on the. Yep, that's our good sheet. Perfect. Yep. So we have there's our wetland flag right there. That's our nearest edge right there. That's our 98, and our other section is 93. You can see clearly that the pool is outside the buffer. Proposed stockpile, if required, is outside the buffer. That thick poly, kind of a hidden black line, is the limit of our work. That's around all the way down and around, all the way up and around. Our wetlands run to the south of that. Our closest spot disturbance to wetlands is 51 and 52 feet. So we're outside the 50-foot buffer. We are cutting 3 trees, 2 right there and 1 right there. And we're replacing the trees down along the bottom near the limit of work. 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, and 1 up there. Just above that, where the hand is there, our proposing drain unit number 1. That's going to capture all our rooftop along the front of the house, and in the back is going to capture all rooftop in the back. We have a discharge pipe coming out of both units. Driveway we're going to enlarge it slightly, but it's outside the buffer zone.
You're also capturing the impervious areas too.
Yes, we are. Yep. 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 Guess if the commission has any questions, we could.
Yeah. All right. Do any of the commissioners have any questions? Raise your hand. Fred.
Is that a tennis court I'm seeing in the corner? What's the structure to the left of the house?
Yeah, there's an existing tennis court that's been there for a number of years. It's not proposed. It's existing.
It's existing. Okay.
Yep, right there. Yep.
All right.
Anybody else? Commissioners? No? Clay, do you have any further comments?
No, I think through the RDA process, as was mentioned, this is essentially the same plan that was submitted previously. The concerns of the commission, I think under the RDA was the amount of grading to match the grades where the disturbance was coming up to the 50-foot. With the notice of intent, we do have a drafted Exhibit A that we can review later. There are some special conditions that will address the concerns about coming back before us to make sure that that the erosion controls are installed, just having those checks and balances to make sure that the construction phasing and post-construction final site is, in compliance. Otherwise, it's a pretty straightforward project. As was mentioned, it's pulling the impervious surfaces further away from the wetlands than what's currently existing. So staff feels there's a net benefit here to the buffer zone work.
All right, any comments from the public or anybody with a raised hand?
There are no raised hands.
Oh, we got another comment from Fred.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was curious. I'm sorry I missed the presentation last week, last month, and I couldn't be there. But what's the predominant invasive species there that you're getting rid of? Or am I mixing this up with another case?
Yeah, I think you're thinking about the next item on the
Yep.
agenda.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry about that.
All right, anybody else? All right, well, let's have a motion to close the hearing
Close first, yeah.
for 131 Oxbow Road, DEP file number 234917.
So moved.
Second.
All right, let's vote. Sue,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Fred,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. All right, great, thank you, and did a great job in your materials. Okay, next project is.
Thank you very much.
yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you. Next project is 80 Gary Road. I don't think they have a DP file number yet. And we have Chris Frateroli from Goddard and the applicant here to present this project.
I'm actually pulling the applicant over from the panelist side.
Okay.
So Chris, if you want to take it away, you're welcome to.
Absolutely. All right, can we see my screen?
Yep.
Beautiful. All right, my name is Chris Frateroli. I'm a wetland scientist with Goddard Consulting. We're here tonight talking about the notice of intent for 80 Gary Road. No DEP number yet, but I will, at least as of last time I checked earlier this afternoon. To kind of orient you to the site, we have here just a aerial photo, property boundary, the existing house up here. We have this the stream running along the back. This is Herd Brook. It is mapped as perennial on the USGS. So that is our primary concern here, is the riverfront area that casts. To orient you a little bit, here's just a view of the property from the street. And moving down, we have our existing conditions plan. The brook is back here. We have our high water flags, or the GC 1 through 11. And then we have BVW flags as well, GC A1 through A18, the various buffer zones and riverfront areas. You'll note that pretty much the entire property is within that 200-foot riverfront area. So that line comes up to about here, just a few feet off of the front property boundary. By way of graphics, here's just another way to look at that. Aerial showing the riverfront area. The inner riparian zone is in green here. The outer riparian zone in blue out here. Again, you'll note essentially the entire property is within that riverfront area. Moving on down, we have existing cover in the riverfront area. So this blue polygon here is the existing degraded area that's impervious. That's the house and driveway, walkway, etc. This green and white speckled area is the existing lawn, landscaped area within the riverfront area. And then towards the rear, we have truly impressive dominance of invasive species. And I have a few photos here just to kind of illustrate, we have the garlic mustard here. Ground cover is mostly comprised of garlic mustard, Pachysandra. We have a good dominance of bittersweet. We have some burning bush. The canopy is almost entirely Norway maple. So really just a who's who of the invasives of Massachusetts. So as part of the proposal, we're going to manage that. But before we get there, let's talk about the building itself. The project proposes to raise that existing structure, rebuild a new home over somewhat the same footprint. We will have, obviously, the home itself, driveway and walkways up here towards the front, infiltration system in the rear. There's a courtyard in the center that will also have a component of that stormwater management. And then you'll notice this kind of hatched area here will be the lawn. We've kept it really as tight as we possibly could. And then again, to show it in a more graphical sense, this is going to be the proposed impervious. That's the house, driveway, walkways, a limited lawn around the outside. And this large green polygon is going to be our invasive species management area. That is going to have, full invasive management, native replanting. Our hope is to turn it into kind of a more open, meadowy area that's going to be much more fruitful for wildlife habitat, forage value, that sort of thing. And here's just a graphical depiction of the planting plan. So we have a variety of trees going in, shrubs along the way. We're hoping to leave a mowed path to provide access down to that river. We're going to be installing these wildflower swaths to provide some additional pollinator habitat, pretty the place up a little bit. So in total, we have a net increase of just over 4,500 square feet of degraded riverfront area. And to mitigate for that, we're providing just shy of 14,000 square feet of invasive species management and native replanting. And that's intended to offset that new encroachment into the riverfront area. So that is really the high level overview here. It's a relatively straightforward project in terms of the actual work to be conducted. And, at this point, I'd be happy to take any questions, any feedback from the commission or staff.
Yeah, thank you. I like your graphics.
Thank you. I do find they make it a little easier to interpret.
Yeah, well, I'm going to ask the commissioners for some comments. So I would first preface this by saying that, one of the issues that I think we're going to want more detail on is there's a number of trees that are going to be removed, and we want to know, where the trees are, what size they are, what species they are.
Absolutely.
And then we have guidelines as far as what can be replaced or what the replacements could be. So I think, you need to look at that.
Absolutely. I think a tree inventory is certainly in order.
Yeah, and then also the stormwater issue. There is no stormwater calculations here. While it's true that your project doesn't have to comply with the Mass stormwater regulations, it does have to comply with the Needham stormwater bylaw and also the Needham wetlands regulations. And if you read the bylaws closely, they do, for a project of this size, they do refer to the Mass stormwater requirements. So I think that needs to be looked at very closely.
Absolutely. Understood.
And then, Clay has some comments about some calculations of what the restoration needs to be, but he can give you those comments himself.
Sure thing.
Do we have any comments from the Commissioner Sue?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. The house and its immediate surroundings looks pretty much like it's in the second the further 100-foot within the riverfront.
Correct.
Are trees going to be taken down from that area?
So the existing house is, or the proposed house is going to be located almost entirely within existing lawn. So I don't believe there are any trees to be coming down for the construction of the house itself.
Oh, okay, so that is all lawn area?
Yes, I think that there's like I want to say like a less than 50 square foot area that would clip the wooded, so to speak, area in the back. That's part of the invasive species management area, but for the most part, it's entirely within lawn.
Okay, and second question, the first 100-foot of the riverfront area, it sounds like it's full of invasive species. And what kind of trees are trees going to be removed? Or I know you want to, you're proposing an invasive species management program. I guess just a little bit more about that, more specifics about that.
Absolutely, yeah. So the idea is to really open it up and transform it as a landscape. And really transform it into a native landscape that has all those functions that we hope to see for wildlife value, water treatment, et cetera. So yeah, there will be trees coming down as part of that because they are almost entirely the invasive Norway maple. But we definitely, it sounds like we need to do a little more investigating on quantifying those impacts.
Yeah. So say how many trees are you proposing to? They're mostly Norway maples. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Yeah, I don't have a count at this point, but I will. We'll get that for you.
Yeah, I mean, I had mentioned that initially that there are quite a few trees that apparently are going to be taken down. There's some large trees on that site, and you know, we need an inventory of what's being taken down, and you know, and then the compensation as well.
Yeah, a planting plan. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I guess to that point, may I ask, would the commission's preference be to retain some of those mature trees, even though they're invasive, or would it be to really go full force at the invasive removal and replace those trees? I was wondering if the commission had a preference on that.
I can't speak for the whole commission, but I can say that, you know, the commission looks very carefully at tree removals, and you know, even though Norway maple was an invasive species, they, especially larger ones, they do have wildlife value. So I think, you know, we could talk all night about the you know, theoreticals, but
Sure.
what we need to see is a plan. Or
Yes.
you know, if you look at your plan, you can see trees shaded that are you know, within the work area. So I'm assuming that those trees you're planning to remove them. But what we need is to see that in a little more detail. And
Absolutely. We'll get that for you.
we need to know what size and species of the trees you're taking, and also, you know, some of the trees may be you know, diseased or hazard or whatever. So that's another criterion that we'd like to look at.
Absolutely.
The arborist would probably be the first step. Would you agree?
Yep.
But bringing in an arborist.
Okay, so Reed, do you have any comments?
Yeah, and Sue and Dave, thank you. You guys have covered a lot of what I was thinking, but I mean, just in terms of the lawn area, you know, this lawn is going to be very small, and I can see somebody being tempted to sort of expand it in the future. So I think, and this will probably be covered in the order of conditions anyway, but I think we'll need markers or something to make sure that native area is maintained as a native area.
Maybe a low split rail fence or something along those lines.
Yeah, with the markers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anything else, Reed?
Yeah, just on in terms of I think there's some trees in the front yard too. Are those being maintained? Are they,
Yeah, I don't believe there's any proposal to remove trees in the front.
okay, all right. Great.
All right, Fred, you had your hand up there.
I did, yeah, but I think Sue covered my. I think if you try to characterize the existing inventory of trees in terms of their size and species, that would work. It sounds like you're kind of thinking of turning this from a wooded backyard into more of a sunny meadow-like environment, and I would love to have Allison talk to us about what that would be, because it may be that retaining some of the Norway maples would have an advantage. I like how this native planting could turn out and act as a inspiration for others in the area. But I do think that it sounds like it might be a fairly drastic change if you're taking out all that tree canopy. And I'd like to think about it again when we have that tree inventory.
Yeah, I would suggest that the commission members take a trip out there.
That's a good idea, Dave.
I was out there this afternoon, I took a quick trip just to get a feel for what's out there. Now, the so-called riverfront area, the inner riparian zone is a mess. And I'm sure anything that will be done will be an improvement. But I did notice that there's some very large trees out there. They look like oaks, and I'm not sure whether they're going to be retained or not. But I mean, there's a tree there that's probably 5 feet in diameter or 4 feet in diameter. Anyway, so
I would strongly encourage keeping the oaks.
yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, like we could talk about this all night, but I
Yeah,
do
absolutely.
think that, just like with the stormwater, we could talk stormwater all night too, but there is a certain requirement that we have for applications, and you need to be aware of that and conform to that. And if you have any questions about what the requirements are, we can talk. You can talk with Clay or Deb or
Absolutely.
offline or myself. Okay.
So so Dave mentioned this earlier, but I think, it would be very helpful to know the health of those Norway maples that you're proposing to take down. Just for, consideration, because if they're not healthy, then. But if they're healthy, I don't know if they need to be taken down.
We would really have to know the status, I think. Yeah.
Okay, great. Now, Clay, do you have any comments about the riverfront area restoration?
Yeah, first I'd like to apologize, Chris. I meant to get these comments out to you prior to the meeting, just that you weren't bombarded. Unfortunately, we do have a staff member out unexpectedly, and with all the rain, we've been a little bit overburdened here in the office. I was looking through the riverfront calculations you provided, and it looks like some of your numbers are off. I'm guessing it's just a matter of measurement. I think in the outer riparian, you have an additional 1,000 feet. I just think that your total riverfront area numbers exceed the lot size, and I think it was just a mathematical error. With that being said, and this comment also is to the commission members themselves, you did note you had a pretty thorough review of the riverfront performance standards, which I appreciate in the filing. This is being considered under redevelopment, and we have seen a couple other projects under redevelopment that DEP has weighed in on. I would not be surprised to see some comments when the file number is issued, just because they've been, at least in the Northeast region, they've been kind of on us about how we're applying that. They've held a couple workshops. With this one, I believe it's even stated in the application that the square footage of increased degraded area exceeds that redevelopment standard, which usually requires that 2-to-1 mitigation. And past filings that we've seen, we've usually reclaimed that 2-to-1 out of lawn and impervious surfaces. I think it's 1-to-1 if it's an impervious degraded surface, and 2-to-1 if it's an impervious like a lawn, but it's previously altered. The regulations do provide some leeway for you as commission members to decide what kind of mitigation can count that's not quantifiable in a square footage. So oftentimes we do see people that claim the stormwater infiltration as part of that mitigation. In this case, this application is taking a pretty comprehensive approach to invasive species management towards that whole back area. However, it really is in this case not quantifiable by square footage, and we don't have much precedent for that. So I don't, obviously a decision doesn't have to be made tonight. There's not a DEP file number. It will have to be continued, and there's some other things to look for. But I think revising those riverfront calculations, knowing what kind of 2-to-1 square footage we would need to meet the redevelopment standards. And then as a commission, you're going to have to decide what kind of precedent to set in these non-quantifiable parameters for that mitigation. And it could be that I don't have a strong staff opinion, I guess, one way or the other as to whether a plan as comprehensive as this does or doesn't make up for that 2-to-1 or 1-to-1 mitigation replacement. But just kind of food for thought on that one is to what extent is this unquantifiable benefit and restoration of a native habitat around the riverfront, especially the inner riparian. How does that weigh on the square footage of new degraded within riverfront?
Okay, thanks, Clay. Is there anybody in the audience, the public, that has their hands raised?
There is one hand. I'll move them over now. And for ease of this, I'm just going to stop your sharing here.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi.
Hey, hi. This is my name is Yash, and we live next door. We are residents of 86 Gary Road. Then I'm very much new to all of this. Like we moved in like 3-4 years ago. So I just want to know what are there things we have to be we have to watch out for, like as this development happens. We have a lot. There's also a tree which is a twin tree, in between the two properties, and also there is a similar trees on our side of property as well. So I just wanted to know, like, no concerns as such, but want to know for the like anything we should watch out for, because I'm very much new to all of this.
Oh, well, it's sort of a difficult question to answer in the sense that, like, our mission is to enforce the Wetlands Protection Act and related bylaws, and that's what we focus on. I know in general people have had issues with stormwater from construction projects abutting their properties, especially during construction. And from what we've seen so far, the applicant is proposing to put the appropriate controls to deal with stormwater during construction. But another issue that people are concerned about is stormwater coming from a abutting property onto their property. And again, that's something that's part of the Needham stormwater bylaw that the applicants, have to avoid that kind of situation. Other than that, I know there are plenty of other issues that relate to construction, but there are more issues that the building department would be involved with.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if
Yeah,
that answered your question. I mean, if you have some specific question, you know, I think.
well, yeah. So I
we
think
can-
that the thing I was looking for, like, is there some kind of inspection we need to do at our side, like, you know, with this plan, like, you know, inspection of the trees, like, you know, any effect on those at our side, like, and I think that's what I was thinking about, with respect to the issues you pointed out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of anything, you know, that would be really under the purview of the Conservation Commission, but I see there's some hands raised, so there, you know, some, I'll call on others to respond. Sue, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I did. I think a big issue would be, or an issue to consider, the change in grading. And I guess if there's any water issues at present, with the next door neighbor, I don't know. But I think if there's, if there's gonna be a change, in grading, I think that has got to come forward. You know,
Yeah,
for,
that evaluation, you know, should fall under the stormwater bylaw. Anything else?
okay.
Clay, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I guess more generally, yeah, she mentioned, you know, it sounds like you're curious a little bit about this process as well, or how this application or this type of work might relate to your property. And I just wanted to say that we're happy to connect with you offline as well, either in our office over a phone call, if you have any questions about the Wetlands Protection Act, how it might apply to your property, you know, questions outside of this specific application, but just, it sounded like you might be curious about your property, or if you have future work you'd like to propose. I'm happy to walk through any of that as well. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Okay, so there's no further comments. Looks like we need to continue this hearing, and
It actually looks like we have got one more hand
oh,
raised.
I'm sorry. All right. I'm sorry.
Just a moment while I swap back and forth here.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi.
Hi,
Well,
my name is Michelle. I grew up at 74 Gary Road, which is right next door. So I had some of the same concerns with as Yasher had, except that I've been there as a long-term resident. I'm representing my mother, who still lives in the house. We've been there since 1980, I believe. So I kind of know the history of the wetlands, if you want to say. So there is wildlife that lives there, and I don't know if that was really touched upon in the report. When I looked, it seemed rather dismissive. I mean, growing up, I saw all sorts of different wildlife back there, especially deer. There might have even been beavers back there. But at any rate, over the years, and also there was options. I'd like to know a timeline of all this proposed going back and forth, just to know like a schedule or something. Because that wasn't really put in the report at all.
yeah, maybe Chris, you could address that question.
Yeah,
And
I
just
mean,
also, oh, one other thing I wanted to mention too is the houses are very, very close together. It would be great. I mean, I know that Dave said that he went on a tour there, but I'm just concerned with, like, you know, they put up some wood on the side. I'm not sure where the real boundaries are of the home, and I'm really concerned about how, you know, it looks really horrible right now. I mean, my mother complains about it all the time. She can't stand how it looks, but it's going to get worse, obviously, when there's construction equipment coming in. And I'm just concerned about the access points because it's so narrow. Are they going to be on her property? Where are they going to be? And are they going to be in the wetlands? I just don't know, like, what's really, you know, the regulations and how enforcement's done, if there's any enforcement, or once the commission approves, it's just that they can go and do what they want. So I was just curious about the whole process that way too.
Yeah, I'll let Chris address
you.
a couple of your questions, but I would point out that, you know, the wetlands, the Conservation Commission, the responsibility is to enforce the wetlands protection
Right.
regulations. And some of the issues that you brought up are commonly brought up for new construction, and they some of them would be addressed by the building permit process.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, just
the
like to
town
see a
building department, but you know, we like to look at the project in total and try to understand what the impacts would be on the wetlands.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just wanted to know also the impact, not just on the wetland, the other wetland where, you know, your stormwater, is it gonna affect, we've never had flooding in our house at all. I'm wondering if it's gonna start to create problems, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type thing. So there were 3 proposals in the, you know, the development. There was the first one that was alternative A, was no changes to the existing conditions. So I was just wondering, you know, it could easily be renovated rather than demolished, and perhaps add another level to the house, which they did years ago at 69 Gary Road. I mean, there's other options, but the, you know, have the alternatives been fully explored, especially with the wetlands and everything?
Right. Okay, Chris, can you address her comment? or
Absolutely,
question
yeah,
on the
and
schedule?
yeah, feel free to redirect me if I'm not addressing you well. As far as scheduling, it's going to kind of depend, at least initially, on the progress of both the conservation permit as well as, you know, the other relevant permits, building department, et cetera. These things, you know, can be very quick. They can kind of be drawn out. I don't expect this to be a terribly long process, but I assume we'll be here for a couple of hearings discussing this. As far as construction, there's no start date set for construction because of the permit issue. So as far as the construction timeline itself, it's a little tough to put it on a calendar because some of these things are still unknown. To your point on, you know, access and protecting the neighboring properties, the property lines will be staked out by surveyors according to what is specified in the deeds. So they will be clearly marked on the ground. There will be erosion controls as shown on the plans. They're mostly along the property boundary themselves. So that will serve as kind of a visual demarcation of the property boundary in addition to the surveyor's stakes. Is there anything, what else can I address here for you?
I think that's it for now. Yeah, just more clarification as it goes. And I mean, the letter said that we won't really hear back of when there's next meetings. How can I find out? Can you send me a schedule of the next meetings so that I can keep in the process too?
Yeah, I believe, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the Conservation Commission meets every other Thursday.
Okay.
At 7 o'clock. The meetings are noticed on the town website.
Great. Yep.
And
But, you know, Clay, I guess you could get her email address and.
yeah, I would
Yep.
say in the past when we've had projects where there's, you know, abutters interested in following, especially since it's not a 1 meeting process, we have started email chains or, you know, taken an email list just to give people updates. The other thing I wanted to point out is at these meetings, when this one's continued tonight, it's always continued to a date certain. So those email chains are useful. In this case, it'll probably be continued to the next hearing. There's a chance that if Chris isn't able to come up with all the information submitted in time for the next hearing, it may get continued to the hearing after that. So sometimes those email chains allow us to just let you know that we're anticipating another continuation without deliberation. It just kind of helps keep informed, but at every meeting it will be continued to a date certain, and we keep kind of a chain of, almost like a chain of custody, a chain of continuation that's known so that anybody that's at the meeting that's following has a date certain for the next installment.
Okay, great. Any other members of the public with their hands up, Clay?
There are no other hands up.
Okay, so sounds like we need to continue this hearing, and I would ask Chris, do you want to continue it to the, what is it, the 25th?
Yes. Yes,
or-
please.
or
We'd like to
beyond that?
continue to the 25th.
Okay, great. So can I have a motion to continue the hearing for 80 Gary Road, no DEP file number yet, to January 25th?
So moved.
So moved. And
Second, anybody?
A second.
Okay. Let's vote. Sue,
Aye.
Reed,
I,
Fred,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. All right, Chris, thanks for your presentation, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you, folks. Have a good night.
Thank
All right, take care. All right, the next item on the agenda is 49 Green Street, DP file 234-911. And this particular project has been continued since July. And my understanding is that they want to continue again, and I guess to the 25th. Is that correct, Clay?
No, actually, this continuation. So what's going on with this one is the applicant is essentially the golf course. And the revisions that they make to the plans based on the comments, I think this one hasn't really been heard by you since probably July. But I believe their intention is to remove a lot of, or file separately for the tree removals. That was the big sticking point. They still want to make the corrections or the repairs to the stream that runs through the golf course. The problem they're having with this process is that the landscaping, tree plantings, tree removals have to go through their greens committee. And I believe that greens committee that has to authorize these things meets quarterly. I know there was one canceled meeting, I think in the fall. That was why it was pushed to January here. So at this time, they're requesting a continuation to March 14th. That seems to be after when the Greens Committee will be able to comment kind of on the changes. Additionally, staff had asked them to re-notify ahead of this meeting, since they knew that they weren't going to quite have the information. They're prepared to re-notify abutters for the March 14th hearing. It is your purview whether you want to continue it or whether you feel this has gone on long enough and you want to deny for lack of information. But at this point, there is a reason why they're continuing. They're not just dragging their feet. It's a matter of getting input from their Greens Committee, which unfortunately does not meet as often as this board.
Yeah, I personally, I have no problem with them continuing. The only thing I would ask is that they submit updated material, because it's just, too hard to figure out what's changed and what hasn't. So I would tell them that they should redate everything that they plan to submit, so that we know that it's the latest copy. Any other commissioners have any thoughts?
That sounds
I agree.
reasonable.
yeah, I agree.
So it's what, March 24th? Was that the date?
Yes, they requested a continuance to March 14th.
Oh, I'm sorry, 14. All right, can I have a motion to continue the hearing for 49 Green Street, DEP file 234-911 to March 14th?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, let's vote. Sue,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Fred,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. All right. Let's continue on. We have 1297 Central Avenue, request to rescind enforcement order. And I believe Clay has some input on that.
Yeah, so if you recall the last time we discussed this, I believe the last time this was an agenda item was probably at the November meeting. Maybe it was back in October, but this enforcement was an area where they had essentially mowed into an area that was previously protected by an order of conditions with conditions in perpetuity. So they had mowed through their mitigation area. They had since submitted a plan to replant and to reestablish that mitigation area. They did the plantings, they submitted the reports for 2 years monitoring as required. The only thing that was outstanding the last time that we discussed this was that the monuments, the permanent markers, were no longer in place. So since then they have gone out, they used the bird boxes or the bird house on like stanchions as recommended. They have the 4 that are required to be in place, and they do have our wetland emblems affixed to those. So they do have the permanent markers in place. At this time, staff feels that it has complied with the enforcement requirements, and that it's been brought back into compliance, and that the homeowner is aware that is an area that's now kind of under protection.
Good. Yeah, the little birdhouses look neat. We should use that as a standard. We could sell them, right? No, just kidding.
It's
Any-
definitely it's definitely a nice aesthetic. I believe it provides you know, a habitat quality, and as far as permanent markers go, it provides something that isn't as bland for the homeowner to see, that it's an actual landscape feature that provides us with some of that habitat and a place very clearly to put the markers that say this is a protected wetland area. So
All right, any comments, commissioners?
Sounds good.
Yeah. Oh, do we need to vote on this, Clay?
yeah, I believe it would just be a vote to rescind or to lift the enforcement order.
Okay, can I have a motion to lift the enforcement order for 1297 Central Avenue?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, let's vote. Sue,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Fred,
aye.
and the chair votes aye. It is short staff, keeps the meetings moving here. All right, next item is 17 Curve Street tree removal discussion. I guess we talked about this last time, and I don't think we came to any kind of conclusion.
So I do have additional photos that I did not have available the last time this was discussed. Additionally, I don't know if any commissioners drove by the area, but let me share the screen here with the photos. Actually, before I share, I will also pull up a map.
So the tree in question is on conservation property, not a homeowner's property. Is that correct?
That is correct. So in this case, it's not an issue with a tree within wetland jurisdiction. What it is we have Fisherman's Pond here on Great Plain Avenue. The commission owns this parcel right here. You can see care of Conservation Commission, and this parcel doglegs up to Curve Street. It's got frontage right here. Here you can see 17 Curve Street. So there's just a little stretch here. The tree in question is located right about here. This may be the canopy of that tree. It's a maple, and the homeowner has had concerns that you know, the tree may fall towards the property. There were concerns about the health of the tree. The homeowner had been in touch both with us and with the Parks and Forestry Department with those concerns. The Parks and Forestry Department did send out one of their arborists I think on more than one occasion to go and kind of inspect the tree. Their assessment at this time is the tree's alive, that it doesn't have the structural problems, nor do they feel that it's in striking distance. So their recommendation, if the homeowner continues to wish to pursue this, is to hire a third-party arborist, somebody not associated with the town, but somebody who's a certified arborist to do an assessment. The tree here is, you can see it's pretty large. I forget what kind of tree. It is a maple. This is the tree running up here, and you can see that that dog leg area is just kind of a thin width of trees that goes further back towards the rest of the parcel.
Was that meant to be like a trail access?
I don't think so. My guess is that when the subdivisions occurred, that might have been the only frontage. I think it's Trout Pond Lane that's behind Curve, might not have been established yet, so it might not have had frontage that way. And when these parcels are landlocked and subdivided, whether it was owned by the town at that point or not, usually there has to be some kind of frontage, some kind of access to it. In this case, it's really not a very wide access point. So here you can see it's just here's 17 Curve, and it's just this little access point here, and it's this tree that comes up
And
right there.
Why is that tree a concern and the other trees in the area not of a concern? Do we know?
Recalling from discussions I think we had a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago with the homeowner, I think there was a couple trees that were of concern. I think after having the arborist go out and look at them, this one remains to be a concern by the homeowner, whereas the other ones I think may have been more or less accepted as being healthy. This one, I think, just they have concerns over it. I believe the homeowner may actually be in the audience.
Yeah,
This is a photo from their yard that they provided.
but the town arborist says it's a healthy tree.
Yeah, at this time, the town arborist has not listed it as a hazard tree. He's reviewed it as such and has said that it's a healthy tree. It kind of leans, so the house from this perspective is over here. It kind of leans a little bit in the opposite direction. I think with the homeowner, the concern was that the wind could blow it towards the house, especially with some of the more egregious storms that we've had. But at this time, the town arborists don't feel that it's deemed a hazard tree. And I believe the comments that you had as a commission last meeting were about setting the precedent with removing a tree from conservation property and what kind of that qualifier was.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be curious to know, like, looks like there's some tall white pines there that are top heavy, and I would think those would be more prone to blow over than a maple tree, but I'm not an arborist, so I'm not gonna opine on that. Fred, you got your hand up? You got a comment?
Well, yes, I mean, if the person who's concerned about this is attending, we should maybe let them speak to it. But I was wondering if anyone has talked with him or her about the complexity of this problem. I mean, the trouble with taking out, one of the troubles with taking out trees is that it exposes the rest of the trees to more wind force, and the interlocking of roots at the bottom that helps to stabilize the other trees is also lost. And so so it's a kind of, it's not so clear taking out this tree would reduce their danger.
Yeah, that's a good point. But you're not an arborist, right?
No, I'm not. No,
I'm
I'm
just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right, any other commissioners have a comment, and then we'll listen to the homeowner? No? Okay, Clay, why don't you?
Yep, pulling them over now, just a moment. Hello, Boris.
Yes, good evening. Nice to see you guys.
Hi, Jeff. Good evening.
I will get a message about this meeting a few seconds ago. This tree bother us for many years, actually. It's bended to the house, especially in the room where my daughter sleep. And my wife and me as well have a concern. What I did, I hired a professional and asked his opinion about this tree. And his opinion is absolutely to cut. That's his opinion. And he gave me a price. But this is not my tree, and I am not allowed to do anything to this tree. It's not my property. That's why I call for the town hall, and they show up. If you guys have a concern about cutting tree, removing tree completely, that's fine if we just say cut a tree, trim. And what a branch which bended to my house can be cut. Just this branch. It's not too large type of work, but it will be big advantage and will be big save for me. Because this tree, not today, but someday it will be fall down. I have no doubt.
Right.
I monitored this tree for about 20 years now. Initially, it was not as bent as much as today. It has cracks. It didn't have before. So the process of kind of damage this tree is in progress. It's not something we can say, yes, it's safe. No, it's not safe.
All right, so Boris, you said you had a arborist take a look at this tree.
Yes.
Did he give you like a written report or statement about the tree? Is that something that you could provide the commission?
Yeah, he basically gave me price, how much to
Oh,
cost.
did he opine on the condition of the tree?
I'm sorry, say again?
Did he provide an opinion on the condition?
Yes,
of
he
the tree?
provided opinion, yes.
Is that something you could share with?
Yes, I can share his name. I can share the company name. Company name is, give me a second.
Okay, I mean, did he give you anything in writing? Could you share, did he give you a report on the condition of the tree? Is that something that?
No, he didn't give me a report. He just
you ask him
verbally
to-
told,
Did
yes.
you ask him to do that? And
No, I didn't know about it, actually. I wasn't as much as educated about reports at all. Basically, my education come from his message. I received a message from him. Boris, do you have, give me a second, I'll tell you what exactly he said in text message. Just a second.
well, I was
Basically, he's asked me about report. I said, I never heard about. So he didn't provide report, but he did ask. After our conversation, I received a text message from him. That's what I was looking for, saying, do you have a report? And I said, I don't.
Okay, so my question to you, Boris, is if you could get your arborist to provide an opinion on the health of this tree, maybe just a short letter or whatever, maybe even an
I don't
email.
have anything in
No, I'm asking you to get it and then
to get it.
yeah, and share it with us, because right now, the only information we have is the town arborist is saying, you know, the tree is okay. So, you know, right now, we're just trying to understand what the condition of the tree
No,
is.
I don't know if he will do it or not, because for now, he wants basically to cut the tree. That's only what he wants.
All
He
right,
doesn't
well,
need to really make any
I think,
reports.
and the other commissioner members, so, you know, you can weigh in, but I think the most direct way to resolve, you know, this issue is to get a second opinion as far as the
What I can do,
condition of the
I can
tree.
call for another guy, because this guy basically kind of do not react on my telephone calls. And the other guy will come and maybe he will do a report.
Okay,
I can do it. At
Yeah,
least I
and
can
that-
try.
yeah. All right, Sue, you had your hand up?
Yeah. I just want to mention, number one, it could be a bit of an emergency situation with these storms we've been having, and it sounds like there's one particular branch that's a little hazardous there. So I could see, you know, as soon as you have that report from Boris's arborist, I could see taking that branch right away. If it doesn't destabilize the rest of the situation there. I mean, if it doesn't destabilize the tree itself, or as Fred was talking about, you know, the wind shear, but I think just taking a branch that looks pretty hazardous, not hazardous health-wise, but hazardous to residents, I could see taking the branch, you know, soon,
Right,
if or on the condition that a report comes in.
yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think that what we're all struggling with is that we don't want to see a tree arbitrarily taken down, and that we just want some evidence that this tree is a hazard. So, Reed, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I mean, I think the last meeting we talked about, I guess there was an option of potentially, yeah, like topping off the tree. So, but it sounds like Boris, the person you were talking to, was talking about cutting down the whole tree. But anyway, yeah, I mean, we can't be cutting down trees on conservation land without a written report from an arborist saying that it needs to be done. I mean, just from a setting a precedent standpoint, and just from our mission standpoint. But yeah, I mean, I guess it would be helpful. Am I misremembering, or is that the case?
That's the case. I believe it was actually our town arborist that was talking about potentially topping it if the commission was good with that. But again, he kind of reiterated that he and his arborist did not feel that it was the type of hazard that warranted, you know, removal or that type of work.
All right.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think the next step is we need a written report from an arborist. An
Yeah,
independent
I
arborist.
find the text message I received from this person. He asked me, the company name is New East Tree Services and Landscaping, and message he sent to me, what is it tree inspection? Where it is booked?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess we could send you,
That's I received for him. He never specified what does it mean. He basically disappeared. He doesn't reply to my calls anymore.
all right, maybe, you know, maybe you ought to consider another arborist.
Well,
Okay, so-
maybe it's a good idea to for now cut the branch. That's our.
yeah, well, I don't think we're not gonna approve anything at this meeting and until we get some more information about this tree. As a number of commissioners said, that we're not gonna approve taking down a tree without an assessment of the tree itself. I personally plan to go out there and take a look at the tree and
Please.
and have a little more information.
Understanding.
Okay, Fred, you had your hand up?
But we shouldn't recommend particular trees arborists in these meetings, I suppose. Is that right? Or?
No.
Yeah.
we should-
Okay. Okay. Never mind.
There's like 2,000 arborists in this area.
Well, and there's some right here in Needham too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
okay.
yeah, we can't make any specific recommendations, the same as we don't make any recommendations for wetland consultants, but we do keep a list. And Boris, I can email you that list tomorrow. We keep a list of professionals that frequently work in Needham, and I believe that includes a list of arborists. So without making any specific recommendations, it is at
Excellent.
least a compilation of people that are regularly here.
Actually, also my insurance company, home insurance company, also, we had, at least I had a conversation with them, and they have a record.
Okay, but what?
They have a record about this conversation.
Yeah,
about this
yeah,
tree.
okay, so I think we have a path forward, so, you know, we'll, when we get the information that, we requested, we'll, reconsider your request. Okay?
Okay, but maybe somebody from town hall can come and make this estimate. Two people were there, and I think they used to be agree, at least to cut the branch as a minimum.
Well, we could double check on that, but, my understanding is the town was out there and they weren't, indicating any problems. All right, well, thanks, and, again, we could reconvene on this, subject when we get further information. All right, next item on the agenda is Farley Pond tree removal discussion. Is that still up there, Clay?
Yes, so this is we've had a number of administrative approval requests for trees that are, you know, damaged, down, otherwise deemed hazardous. In this case, this is a tree that I reviewed with the arborist, with an arborist hired by a homeowner at Farley Pond. There's two small trees. I believe that they were at one point ash trees. They're clearly both dead. However, they are not located in striking distance to the house. I'm just pulling up a map now that I can share. They are dead. They're compromised, and they're leaning towards Farley Pond itself. So the homeowner didn't have concerns about the tree falling on them, but they had concerns that the tree could fall on ice skaters, assuming that we ever get freezing weather again.
That's rich.
So here is the aerial map of this. The trees are located right in this area here. And this is a fairly active ice skating pond for the neighborhood. The two trees are seen here. This one already lost its top. It clearly has no limbs. The extent of the limbs are these little kind of twigs coming off of it. The other one is right next to it here. It extends all the way up. It has no foliage. It has no small twigs. It clearly is, as I said, I believe they were both ash trees. My guess is that they probably succumbed to the emerald ash borer, and they're both leaning out towards the pond. The reason why I was hesitant to really include this as an administrative approval was because in my opinion, this area here isn't very skatable. There's a lot of aquatic vegetation, reeds that come up kind of where they might be falling. They're also not very large. I don't know that these would pose that much of a risk, but again, the homeowner was concerned about, you know, children and ice skating. One of the alternatives that we talked to the arborist about on site was topping the larger one here to kind of match the height of this one. I think that that would mitigate any concerns about them falling. The other argument that we kind of discussed was that in order for these trees to fall, it's not likely to happen spontaneously, that it would take a storm, and really in a storm of that kind of magnitude, you probably wouldn't find people out on the ice in the first place. Most people are fair weather skaters. I don't know that a lot of people are out there during extreme conditions. I'm not sure it'd be safe to be on the ice in the first place in real extreme conditions. So we kind of tabled this one, and I said, I told the homeowner that I would bring it to you as the commission, since it didn't really seem applicable to the administrative approval at the staff level. The arborist did provide us a report that they are two dead trees. But beyond that, I just don't know if the risk is there. So
What, are the trees on the homeowner's property?
they are, and the homeowner would be dealing with the trees themselves.
And are they willing to replace them or?
They might be. I think, in my opinion, I really don't see this. This one is probably about 15 or 16 feet tall. It's already at the height that we like to have our wildlife snags. So my recommendation would not be to remove either of them, but kind of at most top this one to kind of match that.
Snags out.
Yeah, I don't think we should be doing anything with these. I mean, these are trees that, snags that have a lot of wildlife value on a pond that has a lot of wildlife value in itself. These aren't the only dead trees that are around Farley Pond. And I've seen, all sorts of birds and other wildlife using those snags around that pond. So I just don't really know why anything needs to get done here. I don't see that there's a real risk here.
Okay, that's. Sue, do you have your hand up or?
Yeah, I can't get it down. Sorry, but I do have something to say. I can't get it down. I was thinking, my gut feeling is just to snag both of them.
Yeah.
That's my gut feeling. To keep them, I'm assuming they're in a pond habitat. It's not like an open field or anything, so you really wouldn't notice if there's any threat that they could just go for 2 snags.
One of them looks like a snag already. I think that Clay mentioned that.
Yeah.
This one is pretty much where we would prefer them to cut it. If they took a foot or 2 off the top, that almost wouldn't be worth it. So if you're going to snag, I would say just this one to match the first one.
Yeah.
Did the top fall off by itself on the other ash, the other dead ash that looks like a snag?
I would guess so. Yeah.
All right, Fred, do you have a comment?
Well, yeah, I'm still a newcomer, but it seems to me this is one of those diplomacy situations with the community where we want to listen to the concerns of the owner, do some education if we can. I'm curious, Clay, did you talk with the homeowner about the wildlife value?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our conversation on the field was really that in my opinion, from the administrative approval process, that this didn't really qualify as one of those times where staff can make that determination, on behalf of the commission. We do have that tree policy and and that's why it's here. It's not so much that they're pushing that these need to be removed, but they did request that it just be elevated to get the perspective of the Conservation Commission, since I said I can't really make that ruling.
Yeah, and I guess so. If they wanted, certainly they could be invited to join a future meeting, I suppose. And I would be sort of open to entertaining the idea of reducing the height of the larger one, if that would be a compromise that would help them feel heard and that they're doing something for the safety of children. And yeah, I think.
All right, so Sue, you're of that opinion as well, that creating a snag on the larger tree would be okay. I could join that opinion, and Reed doesn't want to do anything, so
I can certainly invite them in. I doubt by the next meeting the pond's not going to be frozen enough to skate on in a matter of 2 weeks anyway.
Yeah, but that's fine, and I got no problem with that. But I think we're just going to go around in circles here. It's like it's a non-issue really, and I appreciate Fred's point of view that to try to do something to compromise with them. If they really feel that there is a hazard there, we should be sensitive to that. On the other hand, we don't want the things removed because they have a habitat value.
If Clay has our consensus on it, you would I mean, Clay would take it back to the homeowner, and then if there's an issue at that point, if they didn't agree with that, then they could come. Right, Clay?
Yeah, I certainly, I mean, my opinion based on your comments tonight is to go back and let them know that it's not really a favorable decision to have them really touch them. But if they want to pursue it further, they're certainly welcome to come to the next meeting to discuss topping the taller of the two.
Hey, I'm okay with us telling them that they can top the taller of the two. And so if we have a consensus here tonight, then let's tell them that. Otherwise.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Otherwise, then I think your plan is okay, but
Are you worried about us setting a bad precedent, Clay, if we do the topping of the taller one?
I think given the circumstances of these two trees, I'm not sure that it's outside of a precedent, or that you're setting necessarily a strong precedent one way or the other. If you really talk about only topping one of the two, they're clearly dead. That there's not a question as to whether these trees are deemed by an arborist to be hazardous in their condition. I guess you're more nitpicking the target, and that's, I think, what arborists often look at when they deem a tree hazardous, is both the condition of the tree, its health, its growth pattern, and then is it in striking distance? Because I don't think an arborist would say that a dead tree in the middle of the 100-acre woods would be a hazard because there's nothing for it to hit. In this case, the question is, and that's kind of the discussion I had, it was both myself and the arborist on site, what are the chances that somebody's going to be underneath this tree on the pond? And I said that I didn't feel that it was within that striking distance, again, because it's not an area of the pond where I expect there to be ice hockey going on. I don't think this is a corner that is very good ice for recreation. I'm not sure they're large enough or tall enough to really reach out to the middle of the pond or to where people would have plowed if it were skatable and there was a snow cover.
Yeah. So Clay, I would say like that area where those are is like where people tend to like hang out and put their skates on and off. If I am oriented correctly.
It's kind of between those two spots, actually. I can pull up the map if you want again.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, and I think Fred has sort of persuaded me. Yeah, I'm open to kind of topping them off if it's worth it, but I don't think we should be taking down the trees completely.
yeah, okay. So why don't you, Clay, talk to them and say that that's our opinion right now, that we want the snags, that we're probably okay if they top the larger tree.
Yeah, so one of the locations, just to follow back on what Reed was saying, it is right about here, and I think that people cut across the property. I think there's a small footpath here. People coming from South Street that enter the ice over on this side. That patch of vegetation kind of comes around here, so I'd imagine they'd get on the ice here and come around those reeds there. The other spot is up here along Farley Pond Road. There's a couple points that people come in, so I'm not sure that this is necessarily where they set up, benches or things to take on or put off skates. It's certainly in the middle of the backyard. So for somebody to get to the bank there, they either have to come from the pond or they have to very clearly walk through this person's yard to the water.
But there's so many trees out there, and any one of them could fall in a storm. This past storm we had, I went out with this trail crew, and we must have removed 25 blowdowns. And of those 25 blowdowns, maybe 2 of them were dead. All the other ones were alive. And so, that's a threat we have to live with. And then,
Were they pine trees, Dave?
pines, oaks, a variety of trees. Those tall pines that are kind of top heavy, those are really vulnerable, especially when the soil is so saturated as it is now, because they have very shallow roots.
Right. Yeah.
And the soil, as Allison has educated us on, the soil of some areas is very clayey and not very supportive once it gets wet. So Anyway, I guess.
I think in this case, the homeowner was amenable to just topping the larger of the two trees and matching the other one. And I believe that I'll be back out on that site for a different tree. The arborist did reach out shortly after our first site visit about another concern that I forgot to bring up while I was out there. So as far as having an arborist go out, I think that there's another administrative approval tree that's going to require pruning. I don't think they're requesting to remove a different tree. I don't have all the details on that one, but I think that they could have the arborist do both the pruning of the tree I'm about to review as well as the topping of that tree. And I think the homeowner would be fine with that resolution as well.
Okay, great.
That's what's
Excellent.
important.
And they did have a pretty lengthy conversation with me about things like the habitat value, the wildlife snags. We did talk about beavers, and they've had quite a bit of beaver activity on Farley Pond Lane and the outlet there. So they were definitely understanding, empathetic, and kind of engaged with that conversation about wetlands protection and the various benefits we receive from things like these dead trees.
That's great.
All right. Let's move on. We got Eversource, Chestnut Tree Line. Was that they submitted a report that you circulate? Is that what this is?
Yeah, just a quick update, because I think we circulated the email or the email chain from Eversource. There was a leak in one of their electrical lines that goes through Chestnut Street across that bridge. Upon further investigation at the site, they do have Clean Harbors out there. All of the impacts are either at the bridge or on the Dover side. So at this time, Mass DEP, their hazardous waste department, has not identified any issues with our side. They will not be coming to us for an emergency certificate to try to remedy anything, because it hasn't been identified on the bank on our side of the river. They did go further downriver to check. I just put it on the agenda here to kind of bring up to speed that that's still the case. The representative that we've talked to with Mass DEP still stands by that they're working with Dover on that side of the river for those impacts. And at this time, it seems to be both the leak is contained. They've been working on the leak there, and Clean Harbors has had their booms out there to capture anything that they can in the river as well.
Yeah, I think they're going to be done by the end of the month, right? That's the current plan.
Yeah, and it was unfortunately it was both identified and initially tackled, I think, like on Christmas Eve. So it was right around the holidays, and Deb was on vacation. I was remote for the first day back from following Christmas, but we did manage to get in touch with all parties, Mass DEP, Eversource, and their LSP, their licensed site professional with Diane Bond. We have a chain of communication with them should anything change, should any impacts be found in Needham, but at this time, it's not currently impacting our resource areas on our side of the bridge.
Good work, Clay.
Between this and the flooding, I'm going to be on vacation next week. So if you guys
they
need
got quite
me,
a crew out there. I drove by there a couple times.
yeah, they've been round the clock
Great
out
crew.
there.
All right. Next item is stormwater bylaw working group. Evidently, the town is considering updating the stormwater bylaw, and they're in good Needham fashion. They're creating another committee, a group to have input on that, and they're looking for a individual from the Conservation Commission to be in that working group. So I guess we're looking for a volunteer.
I was thinking about it. That was a little bit part of my career after a few other things, was water supply and quality and some stormwater issues. But it would depend how often it met, and when it would meet.
Yeah, Clay, you might have some input there.
I unfortunately have very limited information, even since the beginning of this meeting when I mentioned to you, Sue, that I think they reached out more to Deb, and unfortunately Deb is kind of unexpectedly out tonight.
Yeah.
I was able to pull some of the information from the town website that has notice of this working group. Unfortunately, they don't have the proposed schedule for meeting, and that may be determined after they determine who's going to be on the board based on availabilities. That may be something the working group works out as one of their first orders of business, I guess.
Who's the contact for that? I mean, I'm not gonna call anything, but who is is it Miles?
I would imagine it's probably Miles up in the town manager's office. I believe that this initiative is put forth by the select board in the town manager's office.
I'll hold off. I do have a bit of an interest if that helps.
That's, so you're not volunteering.
Well, I guess it depends. It depends what you eat and, you know, how often, it's probably what, maybe twice a month or something,
Yeah.
once a month, twice a month. I don't know. I do have an interest.
Okay, great. Anybody else? No? All right, well, hopefully we'll get some more information about what's going on there.
I believe so. Again, this is one of those unfortunate circumstances where I imagine Deb may have a little bit more information. I don't believe a whole lot of information was passed along to us, but I believe they're looking for their appointments pretty much for next week. I think that's when the select board's meeting to formalize this group, or to formally appoint the members of this group. We can certainly, I don't know that it requires a vote of this board to send a representative. I'm not actually positive on that. I mean, you might have a couple days of.
Yeah, I would say if this is just like a working group, that's different than a committee, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
probably, as long as we are all in agreement, I don't think we need a formal vote.
There was
Um,
that Park and Rec working group a year ago, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, not to change the subject, but there is also some type of effort to look at a tree bylaw. And there is a public meeting on that coming up that was announced, that's on the town website. I don't think they formed a commission or a committee or anything like that yet, but I think there is a public meeting, so if. You know,
It's tentatively Wednesday, February 7th.
yeah, so some members of the commission might be interested in that, you know, attending just to see what's going on.
I've got it
Yeah.
on my calendar.
Okay. All right, the last item, Sabrina Lake,
No.
what's up with that?
Unfortunately, that one, Deb has been working with the agent in Wellesley since the Sabrina Lake is in both sides. I just don't have access to that with her out.
Okay,
It's obviously not they're not gearing to go with the water treatments. It's not something that can be done in winter, so we'll put that off to the next agenda. I do have the Exhibit A though, the draft Exhibit A, cycling back to 131 Oxbow Road,
oh, yeah, yep,
and I can pull that up here.
yeah, I looked at that, it looked pretty good.
This was since the project is relatively straightforward, buffer zone only, and it was primarily brought in as a notice of intent because of the grading. This is highlighted just because I need to take the time to finish writing out the names of the different sheets. There's 6 sheets in the plan set and they all have to be referenced. So I will populate that according to that plan of record. Aside from that, we have our stock conditions. The only special conditions for this project would be the 6 mitigation plantings for the 3 tree removals, and that they had listed river birch and red maple as their 2 species to use. I also included language in case there's availability problems, that if they wanted to switch to another native species, they'd have to contact at minimum staff to get that approved. And if it ends up being a larger scope, or if they recommend something that's either not native or is questionable, then that would obviously come back to the commission for approval before planting. With that would be the 2-year monitoring on those 6 trees to make sure that they establish through 2 growing seasons. And then operation and maintenance plan that's signed by the owner prior to issuance of the certificate of compliance, that they are aware of what's required for those subsurface infiltration units.
Right. Any comments? Anybody?
Sounds good. And they're certainly not working near any 25-foot. It's outside the 50-foot.
Correct. For this one, I did not include permanent markers, primarily because their distance to their area of disturbance is more than 50 feet away from the wetlands. There's not a mitigation area like we're seeing with these riverfront projects that requires, no mow areas. Most of the wetland areas on this site historically are still overgrown, or at least, naturally vegetated. So there wasn't concerns about reestablishing the 25-foot. It's already vegetated, and it would take a lot. The new homeowner knows that they are restricted. This is definitely one where the applicant is not the current homeowner, as you can see, because the applicant is looking to purchase the property, and I believe it's purchase and sale pending approval of this new house they're looking to put there. So this applicant is certainly invested in the long term on this property.
Yeah, I think they did a good job. All right, so do we want to vote on issuing the order of compliance? Yeah? Can I
Yes.
Yeah.
I move that we vote on the order of compliance.
Okay,
I
for
second.
one. All right, that's 130, just for the record, it's 131 Oxbow Road, DEP file 234-917. All right, let's vote. Sue,
I
Reed,
Aye.
Fred,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. All right. Hey, before we close, I just wanted to note to everybody that the Foster property sold
Oh.
2 days before the end of the year. And
To who?
Yeah.
it was sold to an entity called Castle Farm Realty Trust. They bought both parcels. The total price is $18 million. The beneficiaries of the trust are not known, at least not known to me. My understanding is the select board has approached the trustee of the trust, who is an attorney who happens to live in Needham. I forget his first name's Popio. And he works at Choate in Boston, and he's a trustee, and they approached him, and he said that they're not ready to discuss any issues relating to conservation land or whatever. So stay tuned.
Is the suspicion that we're gonna have an amicable discussion about this, or nobody knows?
Yeah, I don't think anybody knows, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard speculation that somebody bought it and they want to maintain it as a big estate, which I think would be great. And then, it could be a developer who wants to develop it, so we'll have to wait and see. But I did talk with Deb about the Conservation Commission and Conservation Department doing some preliminary delineation out there so that we can get a better handle on what we're dealing with. One concern I have is like the flat area, it could be a wet meadow. I'm not sure. And
I am.
no, I mean a wet meadow in the context of
I know.
of the wetlands, whatever.
I know.
So
Well,
maybe-
somebody should go. I mean, the Charles River is at a pretty damn peak level right now, probably, is it?
Yeah, but
Somebody should go out and look at where the what's saturated, because I suppose
Yeah.
that might be useful in the future, huh?
Yeah, I was out there, when the river was high. I mean, it's not as bad as you think.
Okay,
Because it's, it's a big broad area of the river, but the river is high. There's no doubt about that. But anyway, I think, we need to have some further discussion about, what we want to do, what the Conservation Commission wants to do in advance of, some formal, action, just so we got some good, facts that we can then use to, formulate some plans about how we want to deal with this. So.
I guess,
Something to think about. All right, so otherwise, nobody else has anything. Let's have a motion to close the meeting.
So-
Yeah,
second,
all right. All opposed? Favor, everybody's in favor. Okay, so thank you, everybody, and
thank you.
we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Okay.
very good, very
Thanks
good.
all.
Take care.
Thanks.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night, all.
Night.